Hello, and welcome to Screen Printing Magazine's Let's Talk About It Part 3 webinar, Creating a Path Toward a More Diverse and Inclusive Screen Printing Industry, hosted exclusively by Rock US and Unite Together. This is the third webinar of a multi-part series. I'm Adrienne Palmer, Editor-in-Chief of Screen Printing Magazine. Thank you all for joining us for yet another important conversation. In today's webinar, we will discuss the programs our speakers have created in their businesses, why you should consider doing the same, the resources that are available, and so much more about hiring and employing those with disabilities. So today I am joined by Ali Vanholzer, Amber Massey, Brian Moore, and Jed Seifert, owners of screen printing businesses in the US that employ people with disabilities. Our exclusive sponsors, as I mentioned, are Rock US and Unite Together. And so today we have Nicole Pape, channel manager of Rock US, and she's here to share why they are sponsors of the event and what hiring employees with disabilities means to them and the entire screen printing industry.
Thanks, Adrienne. Well, welcome to another beautiful day wherever you guys are, and another thought-provoking conversation hosted by us here at Rock and Unite Together. As Adrienne said, I'm Nicole Pape, channel manager of Rock US, as well as a former screen printing business owner. So this topic really does resonate with me personally. Here at Rock, we have joined this initiative of Unite Together to truly bridge the gaps less talked about in our industry and kind of foster a more inclusive environment. When you're a business owner, there are many dreams and visions that you have for the success of your business, of your staff, of the overall company. And there isn't necessarily a wrong way to invest in the well-being of your employees, but there is a good way to do it that cultivates a safe and inclusive workspace for all. And so that really is what we want to sponsor and share here with part 3 on Let's Talk About It, that highlights disabilities and employment. And yeah, we are here to just kind of help foster more inclusivity and equality in our industry and beyond. So thanks, Adrienne, for having us.
Thank you, Nicole. And for those who would like to get more information on Unite Together, where's the best place to do that?
That would be on either unitetogether.com or on the Rock US or rock.us website. We also have it on Instagram as well, so you'll see us tag back and forth. And a lot of our partners and amazing people in the industry are starting to kind of pick it up and also share and be part of the experience.
Perfect. All right, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for your sponsorship. If anyone has questions, you can reach out to Nicole after this or check out those 2 links or social media accounts for more information.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adrienne.
Bye.
Bye.
So some housekeeping notes. For those attending live, please use the chat section throughout the event. You can ask questions in the chat, or you can request in the chat to come on video when to ask your questions live, if that's something that you want to do. We will get to your questions at the end during our Q&A. And as a reminder, this webinar is recorded and shared on our platforms, including the upcoming September-October digital edition, where we will also dive into some other resources that are available to you. So the conversation will continue, but I hope that you have questions for our speakers at the end, and feel free to ask those throughout or ask them at the end. So I'd like to start with each of you sharing how you became involved with hiring employees with disabilities and kind of what your current status is. So maybe feel free to share, a brief story, who you employ and why you do it. And I'm just going to kind of start at the top of my screen here, which is Amber Massey, owner of T-Shirts for Hope.
Amber Massey, Fortson, Georgia. Mine started, I was a special needs teacher. So I taught for 8 years, lower school and then high school, have always had a passion just to help people that maybe just didn't feel like they fit in. My master's degree is emotional behavior disorders. So I ended up with the kids that would go to jail on weekends and then come back to school. So I kind of lost my joy in, I guess, working with people with disabilities because it kind of fell into that category. So when I went into screen printing, I have a sweet neighbor, Jason, who is 48, and he just does random yard work and just loves life, but really couldn't find a place where he like belonged or felt important. So one day he just showed up at the shop and I'm like, hey, you want to wash screens? Thinking he would do one or two and be done. And he washed like 72 of them. And then it's been 4 years and he shows up every morning at 7 a.m. to check on the shop and every night to close it up and meets the UPS people. And it is just something that he finds so much joy in it that it just adds joy to my day. In addition to that, I work with the local school systems. So the students, the special needs students get to come off of campus into our shop to learn a job skill that they can take away.
That's awesome. Thank you, Amber, for sharing that. And we'll definitely dig into all of that as we, continue this webinar. Allie Van Holzer with Wear Your Spirit Warehouse, you'd like to share?
Absolutely. So one of the things I love about this podcast and this group is I've just learned so much more about Amber in the last 5 minutes, even though I knew her before, that now I've got to contact her and ask her a whole bunch of questions. So I'll be honest, we fell into it. It was not an intentional decision, but our local organization, the ARC, reached out to us about doing some t-shirts and some promotional items for them. And whenever we have an organization reach out to us, particularly nonprofits, we really want to learn about their mission because we want to find the right fit of product for them and help them develop their brand and bring about awareness. So in learning about what the ARC does and how they support our community and things this way, I learned what an amazing mission it was and discovered that they were actually a really good fit to work with for us in the business. And so we looked at various candidates and job opportunities within our business to see where we could find a good fit. And then we interviewed just like any other job and found a couple people that were amazing fits and employed them. And one is still with us to this day, nearly 3 years later. And we've had one or two others that have come and gone and gotten some skills and then moved on and things that way. And it has been a phenomenal partnership for us with employees, also with business. And one of the things that I say is regardless of the business benefits of it, it's the right thing to do, especially as a small business in a community, partnering with other nonprofits and things that way. So honestly, we fell into it, but it's the best thing we've fallen into.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Allie. Yeah, you mentioned ARC, which if you're watching this in the future, but in the present for you, the companion article, I've interviewed some members of ARC and their relationship with Allie and how you can find a regional association that you can work with. So yeah, stay tuned for that or look at the next page, depending on where you are in this. All right, thanks, Allie. Up next, Ryan Moore of Allmade and Ryan.
Good morning. Hey, Allie, that's crazy that you started with the ARC because that's actually how we started as well. One of the members, Jesse, that works with us now, he's been here 10 years. He just had his anniversary, I think 2 weeks ago, has disabilities. His mom is on the board of the local ARC chapter, I think you would call it. And somehow got connected with our team through some of our HR activities that we were doing, kind of community outreach. And we were sponsoring the ARC. We would help them with turkey drives. So we'd help supply turkeys for them every Thanksgiving to give out to the community that they support. And then I think that's how we ended up forming a relationship with a local provider here called Trillium that helps people with disabilities get jobs. They're kind of half funded by the state, half funded privately through fundraisers and things of that nature. They're a nonprofit. And one of our team members that used to be a tech in the screen printing industry, and her name's Ashton. She's helped a ton of people start and grow their screen printing businesses through her course at Ryonet. She actually went and worked for them and opened up that relationship. So we have two supported team members here, one full-time. Chris is very capable, helps put together all the Riley Hopkins kits. So all the hardware that goes into Riley Hopkins presses and some of the exposure systems that Ryonet makes here in Washington, Chris does. And then Jesse is part-time and does a lot of packaging work, shredding of cardboard, and sweeping and kind of cleaning up. But both very different team members. Like every single person that works at any company is gives a different contribution. So excited to talk about this and shed more light in this industry.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, we'll definitely talk later on about the different roles and responsibilities that all of you are hiring specifically for, which will help other business owners understand what works best for them and their companies. So last but certainly not least, Jed Seifert Steaks Manufacturing, which is the big reason we're having this webinar, was based off a conversation that Jed and I had just a few weeks ago about this and what he's doing at Steaks and the importance of this conversation in the print industry. So Jed. Oh, Jed, you're muted. 1 second.
You'd figure after 1,000 of these Zooms over the last 3 years, I'd have the mute button figured out by now. But thank you very much for having me. It's truly a pleasure, and to be with some wonderful people, kind of having this conversation is really awesome. So, tell you a little bit about my background. I've been involved with folks with disabilities my whole life. My brother's got Fragile X, which is the leading genetic known cause of autism. So was kind of always highly involved in Special Olympics with coaching and all that growing up. But how I actually really got into the employment side was my brother. About 6 years ago, the disability employment service provider, SEEK, that I sit on the board of directors now, that provides services to my brother and supports him in his role as a mail clerk at the Securities Exchange Commission, where he's held his job for 20 years. 6 years ago, he got awarded Employee of the Year out of hundreds of employees. And I went to go see him receive the award. They asked me to give an impromptu speech. By the end of the speech, people were crying. They had me join the Business Advisory Council, and then eventually had me join the board of directors. And that really was sort of the moment where I realized sort of what my life's mission was and passion was. For my brother, getting his job 20 years ago changed his life, unlike anything else could have. It gave him the ability to pay his own bills, move out of my parents' house, support himself, make work friends, have purpose, be happy. It truly, truly changed his life for the better, and not just my brother's life, but our family's life and the community too, right? He's a taxpayer, he's a productive employee. So, once we had that sort of moment watching him get that award, I realized that my calling was to help champion disability employment in the workforce and help give other people the opportunity that my brother got that changed his life for the better. And that's really what's kind of driving us, at Steaks. We're the only sort of non-screen printer. We're a DTG, DTF shop out of Eastlake, but just outside of Cleveland, but all the jobs correlate, right? And what started out as a vision of, hey, we wanted to hire some folks with disabilities. We went through sort of organic channels, but I knew out of the gate that we really needed to partner with the disability employment service provider, which we'll get into more later in this conversation, to help provide the necessary supports to make it successful. Since then, we've kind of expanded. Right now, I believe we have about 20 folks with disabilities on staff full time. And then we also have a school to work program where we've partnered with the county, and we have 12 interns a semester from the local school system who come for 2 hours a day, get mentored, learn the job with the goal of making them independent workers. And then at the end of the semester, they get the opportunity for full-time employment if it's a good fit for them, and it's a good fit for us. So our goal really is to, change lives beyond the four walls of our building, though, and help impact change industry-wide, to really kind of help people understand all of the free resources that are available to support them, all of the true, ROI that's available from hiring people with disabilities, and really help people understand that they have the resources to do it. We're not talking about, while I love what Ali said about, it's the right thing to do. And, this does give you the warm and fuzzies. There's no denying that. But what we're looking to build is beyond that. This has to be a true ROI for your business. This has to be meaningful employment for the individual and for the employer, excuse me. And they have to be treated as and held accountable as a normal employee as well. So We're talking about real meaningful employment, not charity, because if you just do it for the charity aspect, it's going to be short-lived. And what we're looking is to build long-term relationships with your service providers and your employees, so that not only is it successful for that employee, but it's successful for your entire organization, and it can be long-term.
Adrian, I'm sorry, Jed, go ahead.
No, I was the last thing I was going to toot our horn a little bit and just say that, APSE, who we'll talk about later, who's the national trade organization for all the disability employment service providers, also named our company Stakes National Employer of the Year in May, which was a tremendous honor. And come full circle, my brother got to come watch me accept this award, which it all started from me going to watch him accept the award. So it's beautiful how life kind of comes together in that way.
I love that. That's congratulations. And everyone should be tooting their own horn at all times. So no need to, but yeah, Amber, what were you going to say?
I was going to add, when Jed and I first talked, Jed, I don't do serious people. Like, they make me anxious. And Jed and I were talking, and I'm just going, we're not a good fit. We're not a good fit. And he goes, Amber, your job needs to be return of investment, not a charity first. And it was like, wait, I like him. So it was awesome to talk to somebody that understood how much I love Jason and the passion behind it, but to go, he cannot bust all your screens. That's not okay. So that was just a great connection, and to realize that we all can make it work. But my business plan, as y'all know, is not very good. So Jed, I appreciate just you saying I could still be a charity, but I needed to make money first, was probably the best thing I needed to hear. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the kind words and being a part of all this and helping me kind of build momentum here in the industry.
I'm excited.
Yeah, speaking of our calls, Jed, when we spoke, you mentioned that the small folks don't think they have the resources and the big folks don't think they have the time. So just because Amber was kind of talking about, well, this is, or we're all talking about like, this is just for charity. No, like, what are some of the reasons that you think screenpreneurs are not hiring those with disabilities? And, how can we start this conversation off by debunking those myths?
Great question. And you can ask that exact same question, and you can take screen printers out of the question and just make it in general. Why aren't people doing this? And what are sort of the reservations or the stigmas or the incorrect preconceived notions that they have that are holding them back? Because I truly believe most people do want to do what's right. I truly believe people want to be good people. People want to, include people. But again, you got to run your business. So reason number one is people have no clue that there are disability employment service providers. Now, what a disability employment service provider is, it's a local organization that can help you by finding the right candidates, doing the screening of the candidates to ensure that they're qualified candidates, providing on-site job coaches to help train and onboard the employees, as well as help train your managers, so that your managers may have to tailor certain parts of the training specific to the individual. But I'll say that they should be doing that regardless of the person has a disability or not, because everybody has the strengths and weaknesses, right? So it's all about tailored training so that you can make sure that the individual is set up for success. But the big thing that people don't know is these disability employment service providers don't cost the employer a thing. They are all state and federally funded. So if you think about it, sure, maybe a training process maybe has to be tailored. Maybe the training process takes even a little bit longer, but you've eliminated your need to screen all these employees, go find them, go hire them. You get a free on-site job manager who basically helps train your employees and makes your managers better. And everything that they learn there can be replicated for all of your employees, disabilities or not, and make them more successful. So number one is I think people don't realize that there's supports out there and that there's no cost to them. So number two, once people realize that, then they still don't know where to find them, right? So our goal is to really help people find those. We've talked about a couple of those channels already. Number one being APSE, the National Trade Organization for Disability Employment Service Providers. Their website is apse.org. You can reach out to them. They have a contact form. Put in your information, they'll follow back up with you, and they can help set you up with a local provider in your area. Another great organization is the ARC. We've got two folks on this call have already mentioned that they've gone through those channels. The ARC has local chapters in almost every city in the country. And if they don't provide the resources to help you hire and train, which a lot of them do, they at least can direct you to some other organizations that can help you out in that fact. And then the last place that I would go is your state vocational rehabilitation office. Now, in every state, they call them different. In one state, they call them VR. In the other state, they call them DARS. There's a lot of different names for it, but it's essentially, it's your state vocational rehabilitation office. They provide services exactly for this. Some, as with any hiring agency, some hiring agencies are better than others. Some state VRs are better than others. Some ARC chapters are better than others. So I suggest you check out all three resources and figure out what's going to be the best fit for you guys, because really that's the goal, is to support you in your journey to help you hire the right people that can be independent workers that can then add benefit to your business and create an ROI beyond just the individual employee, but company-wide across the culture of the business. So I think those are the biggest things, is that people don't know that there's the supports, right? And that leads into the other kind of challenges where they go, oh, well, my managers never dealt with somebody with disabilities. They're not going to know what to do, or they're going to be daunted by this. Okay, but there are these support mechanisms out there. And I will tell you, once your managers get over that hump, it will change their perspective on their job, the business, and the culture and everything they're doing. I had a manager in our warehouse come to us, which is where we started, and we'll talk about other departments and other jobs, but we had our manager in the warehouse come to me, and I said to him, hey, if any point this stops you from hitting your own KPIs and your own output goals that you need to hit, like, we need to have a conversation so that we can address that, because while we're doing this because we want to make a social impact, we can't have a negative impact on our business while we're doing it. And his reply to me was, Jed, I've never cared about a job in my life. I actually come to work and feel like I have meaning and I'm changing people's lives. So sure, putting ink on cotton was cool before, but now I actually feel like there's meaning to what I'm doing. So comments like that are just priceless. And I'm sure we'll hear from the other speakers on this panel that it's not just our staff that says it. It's anybody who gets involved.
Yeah. Well, Jed, you hit on a ton of different stuff that I know we're all going to want to dig into. One thing specifically, and before we go back and see if anyone else has any myths that we want to debunk, that on-site or that manager or that trainer or that coach that is well-versed in whatever disability this person may have, they are the expert, and they are the ones who are going to be helping that employee. Your manager doesn't have to become an expert overnight on certain disabilities. They have someone through the programs that they can talk to. So if there's maybe a home issue, or there's maybe something going on, mentally that day that you can't figure out, someone is going to be able to come in and do that. And it's not at cost to you. And also that pressure is not on you to maybe be that expert, if I understood that correctly.
Yeah, and it's also the little things too. So it's not just the big grandiose things, right? My brother has been in his job for 20 years, but 5 years ago, he fell asleep 2 days in a row at his job. That can get you fired. And they reached out to his job coach, and the job coach reached out to my parents. The manager's not going to reach out to my parents. They don't want to involve families, but the job coach reached out to my parents. And what they find out? Well, my brother's medication had been changed the week prior. So they just needed to readjust the doses. Or we had one of our third best employee in the warehouse at a 50 based off of speed and accuracy, is a graduate from our school to work program who has autism. But during his breaks, a nervous kind of twitch of his, he was spinning some of the signs around in our facility that we use to direct people. The manager was a bit overwhelmed. Manager was overwhelmed just because they didn't know how to handle it. And they also knew that it was my passion. They didn't want, so they said, well, what do I do? I said, well, did you call the job coach? Because that should be number one every time. They called the job coach spoke to the employee, job coach spoke to the parents to reiterate at home. Issue never happened again. So it's also the little things to help support you on your journey. And I think the other myth to debunk here, totally unrelated, is that oftentimes people think of people with disabilities and they only think of sort of low skilled tasks. And the reality is we're going to tell you it's different. It's high skilled tasks with repetition. So repetition is the key to success for people with disabilities. It's how people with disabilities learn, it's how they flourish, and it's what they feel comfort in at home. So whereas the person without disabilities might get bored packaging thousands of shirts a day or doing thousands of hang tags a day or cleaning thousands of screens a day. Person with disabilities feels at home because that's that repetition and routine that they're used to. So all too often, people just look at sort of those low skilled entry level positions. We've got folks in our warehouse. We've got people in shipping. We've got people in quality control. I've got somebody with a 4-year degree in cybersecurity who's doing audits on our warehouse and doing reports for our client service team who's got cerebral palsy. So all too often, we put people into a box. And when we think about the roles that are available to people with disabilities, we think of the low end of the spectrum. Oh, what can this person do? As opposed to going, hey, let's just look at all of our entry level positions that are open, work with a service provider to find a right match for the right one. Because data entry is another huge position that we see a lot of people hired in. Again, it's the right person for the right position. So really want to debunk that it's got to be low skilled. Actually, it can be very high skilled and be very intricate as long as there's repetition to it.
Great. Thanks, Jed.
And
That's debunked. Yeah, Al, I saw a lot of heads nodding, so I definitely want to pick everyone else's brains and see if you have anything else to share there. Al, you can go ahead.
well, and I just wanted to piggyback a little bit off of Jed. One of the things that was said to me before the ARC placed anybody in my facility, they came and did a tour to see really what we did, and then we brainstormed different jobs that would be good fits and things this way. And then we hired Tyler, and Tyler came in and he started working. And the feedback I got from them was they were so excited because the majority of employers for the ARC are restaurants and grocery stores. And it's gathering carts and it's doing dishes. And we were offering an opportunity that was so much different than that and could be so much more. And so to Jed's point, let's not forget there's mental disabilities, there's physical disabilities, and these job coaches are so amazing that they can come into your facility and you can give them a tour and show everything that you do start to finish. They spent hours with me, everything they do start to finish, and really know what we do to find those good fits and do that. So I just wanted to kind of do that. Another piece I was gonna kind of hit on is I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a prove it kind of person. You can tell me all these things, but prove it to me. And Adrian, because I've been on podcasts before, that I'm very data driven. And so in preparing for this podcast and things that way, I started kind of diving in, and there were things that I knew inherently just from employing various individuals, but I went and looked for the data because I wanted to be able to prove it. And one of the things that has been shown over and over is that businesses who hire individuals with disabilities, either physical or mental, are more innovative. They have better company culture, which Jed hit on, and they're more innovative because often people with disabilities have to learn workarounds. They have to learn different ways to do things. And my brain doesn't work the same as Ryan's brain. It doesn't work the same as Amber's brain, but we may all come into a business like this and come up with the same solution for doing something. But then you get somebody else who has a unique perspective or has had to figure out different workarounds to be able to accomplish the same tasks that we do. And they come up with a brand new innovative way of conducting business. And it's better. It's smarter, it's better, and it just improves your business. So I wanted to, I don't know whether that's a myth or a bonus, but there's actually a whole field of study that is disability design, and it focuses around just that. And we've seen it in our business firsthand with a lot of different individuals that we have employed and done, and just approaching things in a different perspective. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there. And then Jed was really hitting on the ROI, and every state is different. And the federal law is complex, but you can check with these disability employment services too, because oftentimes there's a federal tax break that you get for employing individuals with disabilities. So that's another, not the reason to do it, but another return.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a lot of mutually beneficial reasons to be doing this, which is great. Amber or Ryan, do you have anything you'd like to add about some debunking myths?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what Jeb was saying with the supported services, like finding a provider, which is interesting because I know, Allie, you said you were working with the ARC and they were actually, I didn't even know that they did this service. So that's cool that they offer this service as well. But they actually referred us to a provider. And the provider, the first thing that they did is that we're like, okay, we are in a CNC shop and we're welding and sharp pieces of metal flying around. So that's like a very quote unquote dangerous environment. And what they really helped us do is helped us set up a safety program and parameters that was way better than what we had going in before to facilitate, having people with disabilities come in and work in that environment, which is actually way better than it's way better for everyone, like having a safe work environment. And I know in this industry, safety it's not a huge problem, but it's also not talked about a lot. And so the first thing that their process is wherever they're going in and helping somebody get a job or evaluating that job is they do a safety assessment, and then they make sure that there's a good safety plan in place, which is a huge benefit overall for the entire workforce. And then really helpful throughout the process of refining the job, coaching on the job, getting the right, making sure that there's the right type of work environment into the workstation, to the work schedule, and refining that all and really making it easy for us, for our management team. So having that provider, having that support system, which is again free, like we don't pay anything for that, is huge for us and really enables our managers and our team and makes it easier to hire somebody. Because guess what? Everyone needs job coaching. Everyone needs performance, evaluations, and everyone needs, and that's a job that a manager has to do along with their getting product out the door, dealing with quality issues, dealing with customers. They have to do all that, and they have to do the job coaching, and they have to do, so it's actually easier for them to work with team members that have that additional resource than it is to just to hire a temp or to hire somebody else that they're going to have to do all that stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah, really good points there. Yeah, that is something that we should maybe discuss at maybe a different webinar, is safety within the industry. That is definitely not something that we talk about often. Amber, any
I'll add to the safety part. The CBI, that the high school kids that are going to come in, we're having to do some safety modifications in our shop. It's great for two people. Jason stays on his side of the shop in the back of the shop, and I stay on the front where the machine is and on my side. But there's definitely some safety issues, and some of them are simple as extension cords that you can trip over or plug outlets. We have tennis balls and racquetballs on them, which work great for Jason because Jason kicks his feet, where other people would step on them and twist ankles. So there have been some safety, I don't know if you call them safety issues, but they are when it comes to other people. So that has been something, those are things that have been brought to our attention that we wouldn't have known because we do what works for Jason and myself. But I'm excited to have somebody to come in and say, here's other things you can do to bring in so many more people. So it's this podcast is just great to be able to just hear what other people are working on. I would love to have a manager to come in and tell me what I'm doing wrong or guide me. That would be awesome.
I think it also takes the intimidation out of it, right? The point is you don't need the answers. You don't need to know what the role is that you're trying to fill.
Yeah.
You just need to come with an open mind, and you need to find the right service provider. And once you find them, everybody's kind of explain their own stories. They'll come in, they'll do the assessment. They'll help you figure out which jobs are best fit for it, right? They'll help you figure out where the holes are in what you're doing. They'll talk to you about safety. And again, that really will help set the stage for success. And that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel and try to figure it out yourself. Let these folks guide you and set you up for success. And then the one thing I will also add is, I don't know about you guys, but I don't bat 100% when I hire people without disabilities. I'm not even batting close to 100%. I'm more like a baseball player right now, right? So my point being is that, if you hire one person and maybe it doesn't work out, that shouldn't mean that disability inclusion doesn't work, right? You didn't interview one woman and have her not work out and then never interviewed women again. right? So I guess I would also just add, while we have a lot of success stories and success stories are rampant, you might have an employee that doesn't work out. And the key is very quickly to address that, speak to your job coach, and they'll probably switch that person out to find somebody that's better fit for the role, right? Again, it has to be mutually beneficial across the board.
Which that's not something you're going to get if you just hire someone off the street, not through a program. Once that doesn't work out after a month or 3 months or whatever, you're back to square one. So it's nice to know these organizations will be able to find someone who is a better fit.
Adrian, I was going to add that Jed had said that people with disabilities thrive and flourish off of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best things for us. I thought Jason got bored, like catching 500 shirts. I'm just like, I've got to give him something else to do. It's his favorite thing to take shirts off the dryer and stack them by size. If we stray at all, if we change it up, it bothers him. Like he wants to do the exact same steps every day, which is great. Washing screens, pressure washer is his favorite thing to do. Probably my least. And sometimes we even reclaim screens that don't need to be reclaimed because he wants to wash a minimum of 10 screens every day. And that is just part of his life. Like we wake up, we get coffee, take a shower, whatever. Washing 10 screens a day is what makes Jason feel like he's had an accomplished day. So I think the part that Jed said about the repetition and stuff is what a lot of people won't understand. So
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be the third on that. It's the same with Tyler. He washes screens. The other day I walked out and he was so excited because he was flipping folding shirts. We don't have a folder, Ryan. We're working on it. He was flipping folding shirts, and I walked by and he looked up. He goes, "I love to flip and fold shirts." And I was like, nobody else in the shop wants to sit there and fold 1,000 shirts. And so, and the other piece of that I was going to say is with that repetition, a lot of times, at least in our case with the ARC, Tyler received training at the ARC before they ever went to place him. And then he received training and he has his job coach. And he had some other experiences that were less desirable. And he is also so appreciative of the job and what it is. He is by far my most reliable employee. He is never late. He's only ever called out because he had COVID. He's never called out sick. And I can't say enough that just like Jed, Ryan, Amber was saying, I've had more success hiring through the ARC than I have just hiring by myself for all levels of employment.
I also think it helps with hiring other folks as well. I know for a fact, due to all the interviews that we're doing with our own staff, that there's plenty of people that could leave us to go make $1 more working at an Amazon distribution center, but they stay with us because of the culture. They stay with us because of the impact that we're making. And we talk about ROI. The ROI is not just on that individual employee. What we've seen and what I think most people see that I speak to across this industry is that all the things Allie says, right? They're going to be your most reliable, happiest, eager to come to work, never miss a day, and that's contagious, right? It's contagious when you're working around positivity, right? It's contagious when you see somebody with challenges working their butt off and being super successful. It teaches your fellow employees and managers empathy and caring, and brings your entire staff closer together. We're a decent sized organization. I think we're like 275 employees right now. Those disabled employees are the glue of our business. They are the fabric of our culture. They bring everybody and make us feel like we're the same business we were 3 years ago that was a fifth of the size, right? And you can't put a price tag on that, right? And then you also look at some of the training. So, hey, maybe it took you an extra week or two to train that person, but what's the average turnover in that position? Because most people you hire with disabilities, they're going to be there for a lot longer than the folks that you hire without disabilities. So it's not only you're going to get an employee that's going to have a longer tenure, but you're also going to extend the tenure of their fellow employees who are going to appreciate who they work for and what they're doing, and feel like they're not just throwing ink on cotton every day. They're actually making an impact. And it's hard to put a price on that. So we've seen it across the board. And then even with just performance KPIs, we've seen folks excel, and be our best employees without categorizing them as disability or no disability. So yeah, there is a ton of benefits and ROI, and I'm sure there's some upfront, time that you have to invest in it. But again, the fruits that you from those labors is going to make you a better company, better managers, better staff, and future employees are going to appreciate it. And your current employees are going to stay with you and love you because of it.
Yeah. And I think I just want to point this out to our listeners. Jed, you mentioned you have 275 employees. Amber has 2, including herself. And I think that that's what is a really, something important to remember, that no matter where you are in the stage and size of your company, this can work for you and work for your business. And that's kind of why I handpicked everyone here, is that maybe, whoever is listening to the webinar can actually connect with whatever level they are and stage in their business to know that, and maybe that's another myth, you don't have to be at 275 employees to start this. You can be a one-woman show, with help. So yeah.
You don't even have to have a full-time position available. You could have one part-time position available and you can change somebody's life with that. So again, you don't have to create as big of a program as we have at our facility, right? You could literally just start with one person and then organically see where it comes from there. And again, it can be part-time work as well. So it comes in all shapes and sizes.
So another thing, maybe this is a myth, maybe this is reality, but this hiring can be an overwhelming process, no matter how you look at it. So maybe some on, listening or in this industry, they just think that this seems a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of steps, whatever. What's the best way that someone can just get their foot in the door, get started? And maybe this is where we can talk about some of the resources that are available, and we can start, Ryan, we can start with you. If you have a suggestion for someone, just, I want to do this, how do I begin?
Yeah, Jed and I were actually having a conversation about trying to put together, or helping the national resources there put together a portal or place where everyone could go to and say, hey, I'm in this area. What are some of the top local providers? What are the ratings? Because there's not all great local, just like temp agencies, right? They're not all perfect. But I would definitely, I think the ARC, is a great resource to reach out to. It's a national organization and is connected in that network, but also just a quick search or a referral program, reach out to any of us and we can make those connections too. But it isn't hard. One of the things that prevented us from doing it sooner was we thought I think it came up and it was this seems really hard for us. It seems like a burden. It seems like you're going out of your way to do something that you could do much easier. But the reality is, I think there's enough support in this, communication and this conversation that it's not, especially if you find the right resources. So I think the key is finding those resources. And once you have that partnership, you can really start to grow and expand it. But also just reaching out. I know right here, we have businesses, we have connections with, our team at Rock that I work with, in Florida, in Texas at Made Lab, and my partner at Printed Threads. I haven't made those connections nearly as soon as I can. And even this conversation is okay, I need to reach out to Ryan, who runs the Printed Threads shop, and see if they've ever tried this and what resources are in Fort Worth to be able to, grow and expand it there. So I think it's just trying a little bit, just doing a short amount of research, and you'll find that there's stuff probably fairly easy to access really close by you.
Great. Yeah, we will mention this in the companion article. We'll have a list of resources available for people to click through and see what works best for them. Ali, I know you mentioned ARC as well, but any tips for someone who's just I just want to get going? What do I do?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest and throw out my own bias. When the ARC first approached me about having a potential fit, I was not educated in the world of disabilities, and I felt uncomfortable talking about it. I felt uncomfortable asking. I felt, oh my gosh, are there legal questions I can or can't ask? And truthfully, if you just go in and say, I don't know, educate me, they're going to educate you. I've worked with Kathleen and Lindy at the ARC in Southern Maryland, and they're amazing. And I think you interviewed them for the article. And you know, Kathleen came in and she toured my shop. Be open, let them see it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, let them see it all. This is what they do. They're experts. They know, and they will be honest with you, and they will be upfront. And yeah, they'll say, nope, can't talk about that, or yes, we can, or this is what it's going to look like. But so for me, I just needed to get out of my own way and literally say, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. Educate me, and let's see how we can make this partnership work. And it has been one of the best things that we have done. So if you have biases, or if you have, I don't want to say, certainly not intentional bias, but just a lack of education around the topic, be okay with saying, I don't know, educate me.
Yeah.
And
I think
be
that's
okay.
great to say. Oh, go ahead, Judge.
I was just gonna say, be okay being wrong, right? Like you're not gonna always be successful in your attempts to do things, right? And that's okay, right? You're not gonna be successful with every employer. You're not gonna be successful with every employee. You know, I've put my brother in boxes, right? We've all kind of have these preconceived notions or limitations that we set on other people that might turn out to not actually be true. I think that the most important thing that I hope people get out of this webinar is get the support from a disability employment service provider. While I've met tons of people that have hired organically and had successful programs, to do it without their support is just putting an extra burden on your team that's unnecessary, right? There's resources out there, take advantage of them. Number two, I think if you're getting started, you have to have the buy-in from the direct manager, okay? So don't just drop this on your manager, right? You need to figure out who's the manager in the department that you think is going to be best suited for it. If you're a small business, you might only have one manager. It might just be you, but you have to make sure that the person that's going to directly manage this person is bought into your vision of doing this, right? And they might have all the same concerns that you have. So involve them in the process so that they meet the disability employment service provider. So they ask the questions, you know, that they might feel uncomfortable about, or they don't know what the answers are, or it might be as simple as, hey, how do I refer to them, right? Like, you know, how do I refer to their disability, right? In a proper nomenclature. So it really is, take advantage of these services, make sure you have buy-in from the direct manager to that you're going to get the program started with, and start small, right? It's all about crawl, walk, run. The goal is to figure out how you're going to hire the first individual. Sure, that might lead to many more down the road, but start with one and don't overwhelm yourself and make that successful.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the education and just stepping up to the plate and being aware that you're not going to know everything. I think that's a big reason that Unite Together is even in existence. You know, our other webinars, we interviewed 3 Black female screen printers, and we talked a lot about microaggressions and how to handle those in a shop. In our second webinar, we spoke with members of the LGBTQ community, and we discussed, you know, ways how to handle, you know, certain pronouns and certain conversations in the workplace. And here too, it's, you know, how are things, how do you address someone? What do I do in a certain situation? Be able to say I need education, I think is such a big step. And definitely why we're partnering with Unite Together on these webinars, because they are a great resource and a great organization and something to be a part of within the screen printing industry. So Amber, I think you hand raised, yeah.
I did. Community-based instruction, the high schools, our local school system, the special needs teachers are begging for people to let their students come in and work. One of them, they're just like, we can count, inventory, like break down boxes, tape boxes. They do a lot of the basics that a lot of people aren't jumping to do. Another thing that they can do is safe paper cutters. They can cut flyers, they can cut transfers, they can do things that as a small business owner, I don't want to do. So there's a lot of things that they want to do, not just coming into your place, but they also can do in the school setting to get better for the workplace.
Yeah, Amber, that's a really great transition to talk about some of the roles that maybe either the people you're employing right now are doing. And I mean, Judge, you mentioned it's lower level to high level. We shouldn't put anyone in a box, but are there any other roles or opportunities, Amber, like that you just mentioned, that we may have missed that some other printers and business owners could consider for their roles? We all know hiring is an issue right now, labor shortage, all the things. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us. Thank you to Unite Together and US. I know you have a hard stop. Thank you so much.
I know I went to All Quality Graphics Loom with Jessica in California a couple months ago, and she has a huge shipping area, enormous, so much space. And somebody with physical disabilities could easily move around in that area. We struggle because my shop, it's like Ryan's been there, but it's like a double boat barn. So there's not tons of space to move in and out. But your bigger shops, like there's so much space. And when you hire people that find joy in breaking down boxes, I mean, it's crazy. So I think I told Jed that I would record and video as I went through this process because I'm way too wordy. But then I feel like people will see it and go, oh, well, if Amber can do it, that was not that hard. Just to be able to see it simplified, because like Jed, I asked him like, where do I start? And he sends me these emails with lots of words and I'm going, that is not how my brain thinks. Mine and Ryan's is about the same. Like we can video it, we're great. So I think I'm going to video it after we finish this so people can see like, this is not stressful. Like this is where you start. These are things that you can do and just start. But I think the high school is an easy place to go because the teachers have to find a spot for their kids. They have to. And right now the kids are pretty much going to churches and dusting pews and cleaning out announcements. And they're bored. I mean, that's not what they want to do. And I want them to realize what a great, industry that we have and how much fun it can be too. So I would say the high school is a big part. The other ones I can't speak to because I did not know they existed, but I am so excited. I'm ready to know. ROI, I wrote something down. I have no idea what it is. KPI, I don't know what that means, Jed. That's very bad.
It's a performance metric, just, based, it could be any kind of performance metric. And look, and Amber's kind of the perfect example where she started organically, but we're going to connect her with APSI, who I mentioned before is a national trade organization for disability employment providers, so that they can connect her with somebody locally that can help support her even better with Jason and then potentially help her expand it. I think your question though was also about sort of what are the roles, right? And I think that Ryan and I are actually working together to build out sort of a list of the roles. I've built out all the roles that we've had people employed in our facility, and we're continuing to expand that. And I'm actually looking for Ryan and Allie and some of these other folks support as well as I continue to expand. Me being not a screen printer, I want to make sure I get all the very screen print specific stuff because we're doing, DTG, we're also doing transfers. But within our organization, we've got folks that are doing transfer application, which when we first started that, we had concerns, the heat, the safety, the whole nine. We've got warehouse pickers. I already mentioned our third best out of 50 is a graduate from our program. We have shipping associates, some of our best shippers. For example, one of our best shippers has autism. You don't want to crowd around his desk because it will make him anxious, but you leave him to do his thing and he's going to do it every time and crush it every day. We have water spiders, which are basically transporting stuff throughout the facility, whether it's shirts or ink or, all those type of things. We have finishing. So that can range from hang tags to inside labels to folding, tagging, stickering and whatnot. We've got folks doing data entry and audits and reports. And that's just where we've gotten so far, right? We also have operators too that are operating our, very expensive, heavy equipment. So we've kind of really hit most of the places within our facility. And what I want to do is continue to expand on this. And I would like to publish this sort of job descriptions of everything that we've seen, as well as everything that Ryan and Allie and Amber and the roles that they're having people work so that we can also, again, just make it easier for people to kind of visualize this. Okay, look at all of these lists of entry-level roles ranging in skill level that have had success and are proven to be a good fit for this type of program. And hopefully that inspires people to, take advantage.
And
hey, Jed.
let's be honest, how many of us have had trouble keeping employees in entry-level jobs? Like high turnover, we touched on it earlier, high turnover, lose interest and things that way. I'm a little bit bigger than Amber, not nearly as big as Jed. I have about 14 employees, and there isn't a lot of upward movement within my company. So if I hire somebody in the screen room, I have one press operator. He's been with me a long time. Odds are he's not leaving. So what are the odds that that person in the screen room is going to be able to move up and learn to be a press operator? Probably not at my company. If he wants to do that, he or she wants to do that, they're going to leave. So, you know, we do stand-ups every day. And one of the things we do is a shout out. And Tyler has been with me for 3 years. He's been reclaiming screens for 3 years. He's very good at it. He does other things in the shop as well. But every day when we do a shout out, his shout out is almost always the same. He says, Sean, thank you for giving me screens to reclaim. It's always a shout out. And, you know, and he's happy doing it. And he's good. He's consistent. He shows up. And I, in my notes here, based on a lot of what Jed was saying and things that way, I literally have an asterisk saying, call Kathleen, it's time to upskill Tyler. Well, he's going to need some coaching support to do that. And then that also opens up the opportunity to bring somebody else in from the ARC to do what he's doing currently. And so I'm rambling, and I'm sorry, I don't want to take up everybody's time, but you know, the ROI, the return on investment really is there. And as Jed says, let's get out of the box. Let's think about it. Let's figure it out.
Really, thanks, Allie. Ryan, I think you were going to say something before Allie shared.
That reminded me of from our last conversation, yeah, that we need to work on that with the job description. I think that would be really helpful for people in the industry to be able to say, okay, these are the roles that are in the industry. These are the roles that can be filled. Does ASPE, my question was for Jed, does ASPE have, I was just on their website kind of looking in the Texas area, do they have a national resource database, or is that something that we talked to them about?
So that is something that I am kicking and screaming to get them to put together. Right now, we're using the good old fashioned manual horsepower database. And by that, I mean, you reach out to APSE, you guys can find me, you can find Ryan, you can reach out to APSE direct at apse.org through their contact form. We'll connect you with somebody within that organization, and then they will find your address, figure out who the local service providers are in your area. Depending if you're in a very populated area, you might have multiple options. And you know, we suggest that you go to a couple of them, just like you'd go to a hiring agency. You know, if one doesn't call you back for 3 weeks, maybe they're not the right fit. If one of them comes out and does a full assessment of your facility and the other doesn't, well, I know which one I'm going to go with, right? And then some places you might be more limited in what the resources are available. You might only have one to choose from if you're in a more rural area. So, but I would definitely reach out to APSE so that they can kind of help you find that local service provider. The ARC, again, is another great one. And you've already seen it on this webinar. Some ARCs, some chapters provide additional services. Some ARCs are just going to refer you to the right person, but regardless, they're entrenched in the community. And the Vocational Rehabilitation Office is, you know, it's a state office, it's state funded. It is their job to do this. That doesn't necessarily mean they always do it great, but a lot of them are pretty darn amazing. So yeah, I would look at all three of those channels to find the right service provider in your area and then build with them. And
Jed,
we're going to continue working on resources that are more print industry specific, because let's be frank, this industry is, while we have some, you know, shining examples on this webinar, and there's plenty more, this industry is not very mature in its adaptation of disability inclusion. We're actually quite far behind. And really, to me, that just means it's a bigger opportunity, because I look in people's facilities and I look in my facility, and this industry is so, everything in our building is repetition. I mean, literally everything,
yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so few and far between that I have jobs that don't have day-to-day repetition. So I really think that this industry is primed. And I think that if we get the ball rolling and we create some momentum, I think people are going to see the benefits to their individual companies, and then they're just going to continue to bring it up. And I truly believe that this industry can be a trailblazer and go from being sort of behind the times to a leader in the times, and sort of a shining example of what happens when the industry comes together and says, hey, this is something we need to do. And by the way, here are all the benefits for it.
Yeah, and Judd, you mentioned, the print industry. That doesn't necessarily have to be the screen printing industry. As you know, I'm the editor-in-chief of Big Picture magazine as well for the wide format space. And I shared this webinar with my board members and then with our entire audience, and as well as our sister publication, Science of the Times, which is in the sign industry. And so many people became interested because, and I know I saw some familiar faces here in the webinar today, because I think it's the print industry in general. And that it doesn't have to be, even if you're on here and you're not a screen printer, I don't think this was too focused in on screen printing specifically. I think this would work for the entire industry as a whole. Okay, I saw Amber's hand first, and then I saw Allie's.
The one thing I was going to add, I would love to visit shops that are interested in bringing in people with disabilities, just who maybe don't want to take those official steps yet, just want to, I've done it a couple of times in Atlanta, just to see if like, hey, do you think it would work? Of course it will work. But to be able to have somebody come face to face to talk to you, just to say, this is how things work with Jason. I think too, my experience from teaching special needs through all grade levels gives me that comfort too, because I know when kids need a break. I did a specialist in autism as well when I did student teaching. So like Jeb said, don't crowd the desk. Those are just things when you go into a shop and you can see where the desks are too close together, the workstations are too close together, just to be able to mention things to people so that they can just kind of see like, oh, it's just a tiny change like that and it'll work. I think that makes people more open. I do think sometimes when you throw out all these official names, it's overwhelming. It was to me, like I still haven't Googled them yet because it's a lot. But I think when you get to talk face to face with somebody, even on social media or whatever, that it makes it just more comforting to be able to talk to somebody that is doing it for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that made any sense, but my point is a long email with links overwhelms me. But a face-to-face, when Jed and I sat down, I was like, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was. And then Ryan, we just click. So when he says it, I'm like, cool, if he's doing it, I can do it. So I think it depends on the personality of the shop owner a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, Allie.
Ryan clicks with everybody. I was just going to throw out one more resource, and it's slightly different, but the SBDC is also federal. Most of the SBDC offices have a department specific for disabled veterans. So that is another another resource.
What is that, Allie?
The SBDC, Small Business Development Center. There's usually, there's usually an office in every county, or if you're smaller counties, like we have a tri-county that covers our three counties. But there's one person specifically dedicated for helping to place disabled veterans. So that's just another good resource. And again, that can be physical or mental. It could be from TBIs or anything else. Yep. And it does also meet the federal tax requirements to get the tax incentive.
That's good to know. Allie, I'm in Fort Benning, which is a huge military base. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely something I'd like to check into.
All right. Well, we've definitely hit the hour. I'm not even sure if we have any questions from our attendees, because we have hit on so much. If anyone does have a question, please send it in the chat now as we wrap up. I feel like we could talk so much more, and I feel like everyone, even here as speakers, are learning from each other, and so I love to see that. We have one question. Okay. Okay, I apologize for the redundancy because this was covered several times, but my brother-in-law manufactures wheelchair accessories. We were discussing that he should hire handicap workers. His fear is that currently with his manufacturing facility in his garage, he can't accommodate the needs of the handicap. After this webinar, I realized that we have no idea what those needs may be. I'm going to share this incredible webinar with him, but someone who would obviously need to see if his garage is the right environment. What would you suggest his first action would be to see if his facility would be a workable fit?
I would say take a picture of it and send it to one of us. I'm in a double boat barn. We make it work.
I would say with anything, it's the disability employment service providers that are going to support you, right? Let them make the assessment and tell you what you're fit for and what you're not fit for. And if you need to make any adjustments to accommodate. Again, don't try to reinvent the wheel and figure it out yourself. Ask the folks that are spend every one of their days, dedicated to exactly this, and know infinitely more than everybody on this webinar combined when it comes to, how to provide resources and support people with individuals to kind of set them up for success.
I'm going to add to that. I know nothing except what works for me and Jason. I'm excited to know there are so many more resources. Like I had no idea. I do it because I love it and I feel like I'm called to do it. But to know there's so many more resources. Ryan, I knew it was because when Ryan came on the All Made tour, he and Jason had lunch outside because Jason was nervous being around so many people and the lights. So to see Ryan just chilling with Jason on the golf, I think it was a four-wheeler that day, but it just reminded me that there's so many special people out there. If we'll just take the time to just slow down, and now to know there's so many resources it's empowering. So Jeb, thank you for coming into our screen printing industry.
Well, look,
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about it is step one, right? Because the more people I talk to about it, the more I realize it's not that people don't want to do it. It's they don't know how to do it. They don't know where to start, and they're busy trying to run their businesses.
Yes.
So to add something else to their plate to try to figure out, it could be curing cancer. It could be anything, right? Like it's too much to add something, no matter what the benefit is, unless they know, with the unknown. So, again, the more we talk about it, the more we share stories. I mean, people don't realize that, large companies, there's plenty huge companies that are doing this. I mean, with the company organization my brother works, that I sit on the board, we work with Embassy Suites and Hilton and CVS and the National Institute of Health and Vitamin Shop. So I think that, the momentum is happening and people are starting to realize that first, it's impossible to hire people. So why not take advantage of this untapped resource of candidates that are eager and excited to go to work? Two, people are starting to realize how many supports are out there. And three, they're realizing the benefits financially and culturally that, how it will impact their business. So, the more we talk about it, the more we have these webinars, the more we talk about the success stories, but also the failure stories, so that people don't feel uncomfortable when they screwed up. I didn't know people didn't want to be called hearing impaired until I had deaf employees working for me. You live and you learn, right? So don't try to figure it all out. Just keep the conversation going. And even if you're not ready to hire today, but you think down the road, start the conversation with your local disability employment service provider, so that when you are ready, whether it's a part-time position or a full-time position, you already have that relationship with them. They already know your business. They know your culture. They've been there to visit, and they can help to quickly, get you a candidate that's going to be a good fit.
100%.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much. I just have to share this before we wrap. I just got a text message that said this is the most incredible webinar I've ever been on. So thank you. You guys are amazing speakers. You're doing really great things. I'm excited for the rest of the industry to check out these resources. Again, we'll add these to the companion article. Ryan, Jed, whatever you come up with, work with, of course, we will promote that on all of our channels. And let's keep this conversation going. And I know that if anyone here has questions, you can reach out to me or reach out to anyone on this board, and we'll direct you to the right person. So thank you, Amber, Ali, Ryan, Jed. Thank you, Nicole, Rock US, Unite Together movement, and thanks for everyone who took the time to sit through the webinar and learn so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian.
Bye.